Now, the festive season is in full swing, but the worry about the safety of Durban beaches still lingers. Last week, the Ethekwini Municipality opened more beaches that had been closed due to high e.Coli levels. The poor water quality is being caused by sewage coming from broken down pump stations across the city. This is making some visitors hesitant to swim in the ocean. Let's discuss this further now. We're joined by Dr Ferrial Adam. She is an environmental justice activist and researcher with Water Can. Thank you, Doc, for your time here on eNCA. Just firstly, do you think that it was a good idea for the city's government to open all the beaches, even with this problem still persisting?
Not at all. I think that was an indication of government that's putting profits before people. I think the water is not safe, and they need to have consistent testing to make sure that it is going to be safe. And I don't think it's going to be safe anytime soon.
And of course, we all remember what happened back in April when those floods that took away hundreds of lives and displaced so many people. And of course, that's when we saw that the infrastructure development and maintenance in Durban was not up to par. And a lot of people have been saying that this is what caused what we're seeing today, because last year and the year before, beaches were not closed for that reason, or for this current reason. It was for COVID-19 regulations. Do you agree that what we saw in April is also contributing to what we're seeing now, and can also be blamed on government with the lack of infrastructure development or maintenance?
For sure. I mean, I think that what happened in April exacerbated the situation, but what it did bring to the fore was that government has not spent enough, and the KZN government has not spent enough on infrastructure and not done enough repairs and maintenance on pipes and water treatment plants. So April definitely highlighted that. And they need to take accountability for that. We know that there's an infrastructure fund that has not been adequately used. We know even now, after April, so let's say, okay, April's happened, it's exacerbated the situation, but what has the KZN government done since then? There's a 1.5 billion rand that's been allocated as a disaster management fund. We need to know how that money is going to be spent, on what projects it's going to be spent. And sadly, I don't think that there's a quick fix right now for the water resources and sanitation issues in KZN. It's not going to be overnight.
And, we all know, Doc, that, okay, this is happening in KZN because of what we saw in April, and as you said, exacerbating an issue that already had existed. But now it can be KZN, and next year it could be the city of Cape Town or the Eastern Cape, because I'm assuming that the problem with our infrastructure maintenance is countrywide.
It indeed is countrywide. It is a big concern around the country. We're finding high levels of e.Coli in some of our key river systems. From the Orange River to the Vaal to even in Cape Town. So even in Cape Town, there are wastewater treatment plants that are spewing sewage into the canals, and that's coming out, for example, in the Milnerton Lagoon. So it's definitely a countrywide issue, and we have to deal with it in a much more urgent way than we are doing right now.
And just lastly, Doc, do you know any legal avenues that people can use to try and avoid this? I mean, it would be very embarrassing for South Africa, and not just Durban, if, for instance, God forbid, a tourist comes here and their lives are then put in danger because beaches are open, and they probably didn't hear that we have such issues, and they go into those beaches and then they get sick, and suddenly now it's a huge embarrassment for the entire country, because, as you said, we'd look like we have a government that puts money before livelihoods or health.
Indeed. I mean, I think that, that's the other surprising thing, is that we need to hear more from the Department of Health. They've been silent on this issue. Political parties are trying to score points, and this whole thing of the swimming in the beach, that is just detracting from the issues, really. And yes, I do think that people can be held accountable. And what we're seeing around the country is that municipal managers are being charged for polluting water. And imagine if people get ill, or if something else worse happens in terms of death or anything from sewage, and it's not something that doesn't happen. About 800,000 people a year die in the world from drinking polluted sewage water. So that could happen, and people could be criminally charged.
Doug, thank you very much for your time here on eNCA. Hopefully, they did promise my colleague Letu Mhluli in the city of Ethekwini that they would be testing vigorously and releasing statistics publicly or numbers publicly so that we can also see that they are indeed making sure that those beaches are safe. But I wonder if you think, with regards to your research, if you think it'll be safe at all. But I do remember that earlier on you said it's going to take quite a while. Thank you, environmental justice activist and researcher Dr Ferrial Adam.